to the channel, The Second Opinion Dentist, presented to you by Dr. Bo Gram, DDS. I'll just start out with a little prelude, difficult word, sorry. So many people are so much better than me and then at this, but as I said, it's not about playing guitar. The reason I have this little prelude is to put emphasis on how important it is to have something that is for you only, and you don't really care what other people think. And this is the reason why I share this. You can have an opinion if you like. What's important to me is that I have had this guitar playing as something I can return to when life is not necessarily the way you would like it to be. It's very important that you, with these, whether it's a hobby or preferably your work, it's very important that you're not focusing on ambitions, you're not focusing on making money, you're not focusing on what other people think about it. It's like some sort of meditation. So that's the reason for this little prelude, and maybe in the future I'll make other ones. Now let's go to the subject today. So the subject today I have come across many times in my time. Somebody find out that I'm a dentist, and then I hear the story. They tell me the story that, well, I had a dentist for many years. Then I had to have a new dentist, and suddenly I had a lot of holes, a lot of cavities. Or the other one that, my dentist found out I had many cavities. Then I go to another dentist, and he said I had about half as many. There is no absolute expertise. We can always, as experts, discuss, there are always some twilight areas where, some people would say that you have to have it fixed, or maybe you don't have to have it fixed, or you can observe it. Even if, and it doesn't help to follow kind of the majority either, because at some point in history 9 out of 10 would have said that the earth is flat, and luckily somebody questioned that actually a couple of thousand years ago. And if you look at Copernicus's heliocentric model of the universe versus Ptolemaios' geocentric, it blows your mind that nobody could see that Copernicus must have been right. You can go and Google it and see if you would have fallen for Ptolemaios just because he had the backup of the church. So your job is to gather information, and then it's your challenge to make a decision. If you have different experts saying different things, you need to find out who you think combines with how you see the world. And that doesn't mean you have to be a dentist expert. Like Copernicus and Ptolemaios, sometimes it is actually obvious who must be right from a point of logic and from a point of common sense. However, changing your dentist all the time is also perhaps not the way you come away from this problem of, who's right and who's wrong. There is a benefit of continuity. A dentist that knows who you are can kind of perhaps be a little more calm than, because they have seen the situation over several years perhaps, and it's developing slowly. So that's a benefit. Changing your dentist all the time is also that if you go to a new dentist and say, oh, I have had all these cavities, I've been told that, and then already he maybe even subconsciously picks up on this and says, okay, my job is to find less cavities. So I get a new patient. This is the way bias works, even subconsciously. So continuity is a good thing. And this is, again, as I've said in every video, I believe, where the second opinion dentist comes in. Because, I'm not going to treat your teeth, and neither is any other second opinion dentist. They're just going to give you exactly that, the second opinion. But there's always a problem when you have unquestioned expertise, and this is we have a lot of that actually going around, especially in this day and age. You have to understand that things can be discussed, things can be questioned, and they used to be university and in scientific rooms, they used to be discussed. Today it's kind of forbidden, and that's a scary prospect. So you should not be naive, and you should not be lazy. You should try and gather the information that you think you need, and then you should take your time to come up with whatever you believe to be the right answer. In whatever way you can do that. And that means you have to take your time. And to be able to take your time, it is of course extremely important that you avoid acute situations, because then it's here and now. And that's why preventive personal care is so important. Some patients would rather just go and have their teeth cleaned, and then it becomes the problem of the dental hygienist or the dentist. But we are, and this is what this is all about, we are responsible for ourselves and our decisions, even if we consult an expert. Again, the second opinion dentist comes into the picture. So there is no simple answer to what is right, what is wrong, but you can gather info and find out for yourself. And the other part of this, the other side of the story, is of course the dentist. What could possibly be his or her motivation for whatever result they come up with? Of course, the obvious one is money, profit. If you find a lot of holes and People accept that diagnosis, and then you make money. I'm not saying that that's what happens consciously, but again, subconsciously, that might be the case. There might also be an element of fear in this, that you are afraid of not getting it all, or that you are also afraid of perhaps treating too much if you don't have great confidence in what you're doing. Maybe you say, nah, but the less I do, the less damage. Again, this can be done subconsciously. If you feel confident that you can do the job, you will be more motivated. And then there's the problem with guidelines. People that lean against guidelines and say that if it looks like this, you have to do the treatment, or if this, you have to do fluoride treatment. This, you have to instruct the patients. And guidelines are guidelines. And when you follow them, you miss the individuality of your patients. So that might be it, that you are following guidelines and you kind of want to have your back free and say, no, but according to the guidelines, there is a problem. And then, of course, there's the blatant incompetence, that you simply don't see it. And I have seen all these things. I have sensed people's fear. I have seen blatant incompetence where you, year after year, don't treat something that should have been treated. And this is more often something, of course, I have come across in the public sector, I must admit. Again, if you're not, people feel that, and this doesn't work for dentists or lawyers or doctors. If you don't do anything, you might be responsible. But again, I guess most people with that kind of mindset would say that if I haven't done anything, I've done nothing wrong. But, for certain jobs with what do you call it, authorizations, that doesn't work. You have to, you have a certain responsibility for doing whatever has to be done. There's also the overreaction, that people are afraid that if I don't do this, again the fear comes in, then they will come back and I will have to make root canal fittings in all these teeth. Again, if you don't know the patient, or if you are stressed over an acute situation as a dentist even. So there are many ways that the dentist is part of this problem. And again, as I constantly say, it would be a beneficiary to have a second opinion, which is, as I always say, also is all that this is. I don't have the necessarily the right answers. I have the answers that I think are right. And I will argue for them until somebody comes along and tells me something that perhaps I didn't think about. And then, well, maybe I should reconsider my stance on this issue. So, there are certain situations where you can blame the dentist, but again, blaming other people is really most of the time quite useless. It is better that you prepare yourself and dress yourself up to be able to make the decision and to be able to take the responsibility. When I'm around experts, I believe them, to the point where I can see that they make sense. Otherwise, I don't. When I go to the doctor, I'm a bit of a pain in the butt, actually, because I don't believe what they say. They are a lot about guidelines, especially in this country, but I believe all over the world. They are a lot about what is normal. I don't care what's normal. I want healthy. It's normal to be overweight in certain countries, and that doesn't make it good. So I have to, and this I've done on the internet, and I will get back to that in some other video, that I've seen doctors that make a lot of sense. And you don't have to be an expert. I'm not a doctor. I don't pretend to be a doctor, but when I can hear that they actually make sense, because what's going on in the world is more and more people get more and more overweight and more sick. And for the last 50 years, 60 years, we've been having certain dietary guidelines, and they obviously do not work. And then they have the victim blaming. They blame the patients. So again, the dentist is a part of this. Also, they can blame the patient. Well, if you just did this, you wouldn't have this many problems. So information and assume responsibility. Of course, that doesn't relieve the dentist or the doctor for responsibility, as I just said. But you are more safe if you can kind of exercise your own decisions and your own responsibility. So the conclusion to this video is that you need a second opinion. Yeah, I always say this, but it's always true. And it has to be unbiased. That means you find another dentist, as I described, well, they might pick up on what you are coming for. If you're coming for because you think that your dentist is too old, you don't feel safe in his diagnostics, or you feel that your dentist is a money-greedy bastard and you're not feeling safe with that, you don't have to be much of a salesman to pick up on that. And the problem is not even that you are a salesman. The problem is that it might be done subconsciously. You might feel a misunderstood empathy with the patient instead of just doing your job. And this is also a problem. Not that you have to be a cold-hearted bastard, but you need to do your job first and foremost, and then secondarily you can be friendly. When I work here, especially in the public sector, even in the private, focus is on writing journals, which you have to do, yes. You have to have information, you have to have a legal document. And the second focus, or maybe even the first, is that you are friendly. I mean, if I want to have my car fixed, I'm not going to be the friend, I'm not going to marry the mechanic. So that if they're not friendly, I'll tell them, and I won't be friendly, but I would prefer that they can actually perform whatever service they are supposed to perform to the maximum of their capacity. So I believe that the focus is off, and this is off because people that evaluate dentists, they don't know anything about dentistry much of the time, but they do know about writing journals perhaps, and this is something you can put in text. You can make laws, but they don't know what good dentistry is. And the same with being friendly. Everybody can evaluate, at least they think they can, whether this person is a friendly person. I sometimes say that the people that appear to be more friendly than everybody else probably aren't. So you need that unbiased second opinion, which doesn't involve treatment. Simply just the job is to give me a second opinion. The job is to dress me up to make a decision. Diagnostics are individual, so also I believe that treatment according to guidelines is a bad thing. I mean, you can discuss it in plenum, you can discuss with other dentists, but to have guidelines that have a tendency to become kind of unwritten rules, that have a tendency to become, in my case, if you don't follow them, you're fired. Or you're not fired, but we will, pay you to leave. Because we believe more in guidelines than we believe in good treatment. And, that's not my opinion. So, if you find this useful, please hit the like button and, subscribe. Eventually, as I always say, there will be this website where you can go and have your personal problem or personal answers from me in this case, and then I hope to see you some other time, and comment on the guitar playing if you like. Goodbye.